Looks like we're actually live now. I don't know why. Welcome to episode 42, State of the Game for Guildball.
We decided it
Um,
was 43.
oh, is it 43? Screw it, man. I am like really off today. I blame John. I blame it because I don't have Kathy in here. Kathy always keeps me centered. So it must be it.
It is 43.
It is 43. All right, episode 43, State of Guildball, which we have
Yeah.
our actual good friend Antonio in there. Antonio and I have met playing War Machine, wasn't it?
Yeah, a
Back,
long time ago.
yeah, when you actually played War Machine.
Yes, when it was
Um,
Die Hard War Machine.
Die Hard, which is no longer a Christmas movie, according to Bruce Willis.
Well, Bruce Willis is wrong, and he's okay to be wrong.
They have Christmas songs and it's a Christmas movie. That's the rule.
But my roommate, who's not an action movie, my ex-roommate, who's not an action movie fan, said that was a Christmas movie. I'm like, boom, Christmas movie.
Christmas
The
movie.
girl said so.
So, like I said, the betting is still going. John, if you would like to put that betting back up so everybody can have it before we get started.
I can't because I refreshed.
Oh, you're so fired.
I have to refresh to see what we're doing. Blame Twitch.
No,
Twitch's
blame,
fault.
no, I blame you. Let's see. We're going to talk about the state of Guildball. Gonzo's going to try to finish up painting the purple sun of however you pronounce that. And we have a very robust media section from mostly me this time. Because I think I have like 10 things to review. I know. We haven't done it
Maybe
yet.
we need to find a part-time job during the summer or something to keep.
I
people watching
did.
Movies.
I did. I do have a part-time job. It's called going to tournaments.
I meant like, never mind.
I did. I worked 1 week of summer school. Okay, give me a break. I worked 1 week of summer school.
I did 2 weeks of summer school.
See,
That's less than Mark Harmon. That's an old school reference for those of you out there.
so other than that, we do have a bet going away that if we get John's alcohol content of his shot, if it's 26% or higher or 25% or lower, that will be doing that pretty good. So we'll start off with our normal guest, Antonio. What are you drinking today?
I am drinking a Kentucky Mule.
And what is in a Kentucky Mule?
We got Maker's Mark bourbon,
Oh, go worse.
but you could use either kind of bourbon you want, but that's the one I always choose to use. Ginger beer, lime, and grounded up pepper, mint.
Peppermint. Hey, DT. All right. I'm actually going to drink something. I got this a while back, and then I bought a 6-pack, and I will probably never buy a 6-pack of this again. And not for a bad reason, as in it's a horrible alcohol. It's because it's a really good alcohol, and I drink it like candy, and it's Not Your Father's Vanilla Cream Ale.
Oh, not your father's stuff's pretty good in general.
This stuff is like really, 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 really good and like candy. I could down the whole thing and not anything about it. I mean, it doesn't have a lot of alcohol in it, but, you know, it still is the point that you could just down it and not know it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, other than that, John, what are you drinking that is not your shot?
Okay, what I'm drinking normally is I of course have Dr Pepper, and since I spent a ton of money at the liquor store because I was getting low, I refreshed the Fireball, so Dr Pepper and Fireball.
Yep. All right, we're going to close the bettings on John's bit. We have betting has been stopped.
Well, my shot is Dr McGillicuddy's Intense Blackberry Whiskey.
And what's the percentage on that?
It is 30%, so I think everyone who voted is right.
Yep. Pick a winner. 25% or higher. They are the winner, and
I think we
everybody
need to
gets.
change those numbers because everyone probably would assume I would go for higher alcohol content.
Oh, we're gonna do something different next time. We'll do something different next time because we're gonna try to do a betting pool every single time.
Congo and Banyan both won one. Thank you,
Yeah.
2019, for actually betting. Well, yes, Banyan, you could cheat. You could walk upstairs and see what I'm drinking.
Just punch him in the throat if he does that.
He's still a floor down if he does that.
If he comes
That's why I brought it up
upstairs.
here. If he comes up in the room and grabs the bottle of cheat, then yes, I can punch him in the throat.
Punch him in the throat.
Yes.
Do we need to do any tributes?
No, not that
Yeah.
I have seen, thankfully.
All right. So let's do it to
Been a good
our
week.
awesome fans and people that are there that watch us, listen to us, and do everything. We appreciate everything you do. Our patron subscribers, all that. You are making me very, 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 very grateful and doing a lot of things that I have not had to do and put me out of my comfort zone this last week, which is a good thing. So to all of our fans, thank you.
Ron.
Before we get started on this and get our thing, and we want to always thank our sponsors, which is Broken 8 Games. Go check out their token sets. They just updated all their token sets for the new stuff coming out. Also, Crucible Guard. And also, they do Guildball stuff, too, if you don't know. They do a lot of games.
Yeah, they do a lot of games.
Also, on top of that, we should be hearing back from them on our personal stuff. So stay tuned on Twitch and on Facebook. Which I actually saw the preliminary stuff, and it looks cool as shit. Also, our patron subscribers, make sure you go over there and check out the stuff that's happening over there, because you got special stuff if you're a patron subscriber. Also, want to thank Mechanica Studios, which did all our graphic work, and also if you want dice trays, trophies, all that good stuff for events, talk to Mechanical Studios. And of course,
They also sponsor the Preramble.
yes. Excuse me as I'm about to burp.
Go ahead and burp. That's not the strangest thing that's ever happened on
No,
this
not
podcast.
on this podcast. And then also Tectonic Craft Studios, Dan, for making awesome terrain and other things for us. And go check out his stuff if you need things. He's an awesome dude, and I like him a lot. We want to do a couple announcements. Like I said, this Tuesday I will not be streaming. Monday, Kathy will be doing it like normal. And Thursday, Kathy will be on there. But this Wednesday, I will be doing a 24-hour stream, starting at 6 o'clock in the morning, ending at 6 o'clock in the morning the next day. Small
For charity.
breaks. For charity. It is for charity, guys. We're doing it for Extra Life, which will support the Arkansas Children's Hospital here locally. There will be 3 things will happen on the podcast, on the stream. 1, I'll paint miniatures. Big surprise. 2, I'll play Darkest Dungeon, and 3, I'm going to read a book. That's going to be the standard. The book
Are
I'm
you
going
reading
to
the book out loud?
Yes, I'm going to be reading it out loud to everybody.
Awesome. I was making a joke, but that's great.
No, I'm going to read a book out loud. I'm going to be reading the book Fairy Tale by Raymond E. Feist. It is a modern story, modern fantasy. I read it back when I was a teenager. Fell in love with it. Love it. Bought a new copy of it. Going to read that online while we're having times. I will have Pirate is free. You are a pirate. You are a pirate. Being a pirate is so much to be. Do what you want, 'cause a pirate is free. You are a pirate.
Oh.
Thank you, Jade, for the host. You are amazing. I love you so much. I'm going to be reading that out loud. I'm going to set up a schedule because also, like it says, at 3 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the morning, I believe that's when the time is. James Wapple will be on air painting with me. 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Thank you for the thing. Thank you for the shout out. Jade, I need you to get a hold of me. Message me because I have a role-playing game I need to give you for your teaching, by the way. And then 6 to 8, I will have my Star Wars RPG group on, and we're going to talk about the campaign. And we can see if we can piss off Baney on even some more.
That's a noble cause. I'll donate for that.
Yes. Like I said, guys, this is going to be for charity. It's going to be 24 hours. If you want to come online with me and Skype in with me and help me stay awake and stay alive during this whole thing, let me know. I'll Skype you in. You can hang out with me, make fun of me. Every bit of the donations we get goes straight to them. We will have a link ready for it whenever we go live. It's something that's important to me. It's something that I told you I would put up or shut up, and from the last podcast, and so I'm putting up 24 hours of my time to make sure that this happens. This will be the first time. Won't be the last time I do this. But I'll probably regret it probably about 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, I'm sure about then you'll be regretting it. And then you're going to sleep afterwards, of course.
Yes, and then I have to go up and go. Later that night, I have to go up. Take an hour drive and go somewhere and do some other stuff. So this one's going
As
to
long
be.
as you get a good solid, 6 to 8 hours, you'll be okay.
I'll probably get a solid 4 and then go do something. Knowing me.
It ain't nothing we ain't done before.
Oh yeah. We're all nerdy and geeky.
We were younger then, but still.
Yeah. All right, let's go and go to the paint cam, and I'll start painting while we talk about the State of Guildball. Booyah! All right, guys. Like I said, we have our friend Antonio here. He is going to talk about Guild Balls. Antonio, first, before we do, what is Guild Ball for those people that really don't know or don't understand? I know you.
I would say Guild Ball is basically medieval soccer.
Okay.
That's the easiest way to explain it. The main purpose behind the game is to score goals or take out points by removing models from play, and that is the main gist of like winning the games. And you're supposed to get to 12 points. It's a skirmish level game. There's never any more than 6 models on the field. Majority of the times, the sub teams have some wonky rules with that, but for the most part, it's a 6-model game versus another 6 models. You have a captain for every team, a mascot that must be played, and 4 other squad models to make up the gist of your team.
Okay.
So, and games go to a score of 12. I'd say for a newer player, playing another newer player, it'll probably take a couple hours to play a game, just figuring out the mechanics and everything. But once you become accustomed to playing the game, I would say no more than 45 minutes, like an hour, 10 minutes to play a full game. Very fast paced.
This game is actually very new compared to other miniature games out there, isn't it?
Yeah, I've been playing it for 3 years. But I think it's going on 4 years of it being out. It did a Kickstarter maybe like 5 years ago. Then it came out about 4 years ago. I got into it towards the end of season 1 at one of the War Machine weekends I went to. They actually had it there.
I remember that.
And then from there, I just kind of stuck with it as my main go-to game.
What makes it your main go-to game? What makes it? Because I know you and I met each other through War Machine.
Yeah, and I played War Machine pre-Mark II.
The Mark I?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, that was my game. I think what happened for myself is I started playing some alternate games, not just War Machine. I started playing some X-Wing and Malfo. And I really like the alternating activations or not the same sequence of activation. So like in X-Wing, like in X-Wing you have, depending on your pilot skill, things could happen and it's not always, one side's always going. It's usually flipping back and forth. So you feel like there's always something going on during the game. And Malfo, same kind of thing. And so the only thing I know is after doing those games, then playing Guild Ball where it's alternating activation, I just felt like that's my play style. I like that more.
Okay.
The idea of like you go, then I go, then you go. So I always felt like I was involved where from playing all those years of War Machine where it's you do your whole turn and then that just mark damage or remove models. And then I get to do my whole turn. I just felt like that dynamic is really what drew me to Guild Ball, I think, over War Machine.
Gotcha.
Recently. I wish they did something with that War Machine. I think they could have. Kind of like they got in
Company of
the
Iron.
new Star Wars Legion.
Star Wars
like
Legion.
How they've got their activation set up. I think you could do something like that with the War Machine. I think it'd be fun.
There's some potential there, yeah, and I think that's what a lot of games are going for now, but it's hard to take an established game and change it to that. You get a lot of pushback from the players.
Huge.
Well, I mean, it would be a giant undertaking just to even conceptually come up with that. But I think that's the thing that's turned me off of War Machine lately is the wait the whole turn thing. I really like the alternating stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
I know this may sound like kind of a dick thing to say right now, but
Gonzo's a dick.
because Gonzo's a dick. I asked you on the podcast, and I know why I asked you on the podcast to talk about, but what makes you the expert on talking about Guild Ball and the state of Guild Ball?
Well, I've been
In your opinion.
Well, I've been a pundit for the game for 3 years now, and I've seen since their season one, back in the season one release till now, changes in the game, play of the game. Also, from being competitive wise, I've been pretty high up there in the rankings when it comes to playing Guild Ball for quite a while now too. So I've seen a lot within that game in the short span of time that it's been out. So I feel like that kind of gets me a little bit higher knowledge of like where the game's at. And then I think I look at games a little bit more differently than some other players do, because I kind of look for weaknesses as well as strengths within the game. Trying to figure out what could make a game play better than what it's playing.
Okay. We've already got our first question for you. Why, Antonio, why is Honor best character?
Why is Honor the best character?
Yeah.
I don't know. That depends if you're going with fluff or if you're going with play. I like Honor, but I'm not a big Masons guy. That's not my favorite team. I would say best character in the game's got to be Ox. He's a badass guy with a beard.
You just lost your friend for life because Congo.
He's saying fluff, is what he's saying.
Fluff wise, I love the story behind Ox. Then probably Rage. Rage has got a great thematic story in the game. Play wise is different.
Let's talk about the fluff for a bit, because if you really think about it, everybody else has this weird fluff, like, okay, War Machine, 40K, all the other miniature games, it's faction against faction for combat damage, you kill each other, wipe each other off the planet. What makes Guild Ball different? Because, I mean, playing soccer to world domination?
So,
Step one, soccer. Step
yes.
two,
Yes.
3, world domination.
I think if you look at it compared to real world soccer or even in the U.S. real world NFL football, that's more like the theme of the storylines. It feels like the general managers, which would be the owners and stuff like that for like the franchise teams, you get that in Guild Ball to an extent, because you have these guilds which are represented by whatever their main thing is, like fishermen and butchers, and those owners that own those teams are vying for control of different areas within that world. And their football team or their soccer team, their Guild Ball team, is kind of an extension of that. And it's kind of like, I would compare it also to like gladiator type games, is where that is the spectacle of the Guild Ball world, is people go to watch these games and watch these bloody fights with scoring, and that's the appeal behind it. And these players for these teams get notoriety and fame for playing this game. So they become like the super athletes or the superstars of this world because of playing this sport. So that's what I would compare to, a combination of gladiatorial stuff like during Roman times and today's modern idea of like these franchise teams making all this money off of this sport to really further other means of their own riches, and not really about the sport, but the idea that they're making money because of these teams.
So they're not deciding the fate of the world on their Guild Ball match.
No, they're deciding their influence over the world that they live in because of the monetary gains and influence you get from owning these teams and doing these things.
Gotcha.
So,
because like,
just
So
like
it's a lot more like gladiatorial combat.
So
yeah,
our
so
normal.
going to the games is the spectacle.
Yeah.
seeing these people beat the crap out of each other and scoring goals or takeouts, that's the main draw of the game. So in the newer stuff coming out, they have these minor league teams, and those minor league teams are now trying to establish themselves, and then their owners are trying to establish themselves to be like, we're not just these background teams that have been in the background for. We want to push to gain as much fame or prestige or influence in the world as these other teams and owners have had for whatever centuries or whatever in this game world. So
Nice creaky door. So one of the things I actually played Guildball for a little bit, and I played Morticians because I thought they were just a cool little concept. Creepy guys that control people, so on and so forth. Had really cool models. And they had their own issues starting out. Like one of the things I remember was Casket. Casket was one of my favorite characters. One of the abilities he could do was put someone in a casket and they were gone for the rest of the game. Which is a very ball-breaking thing to happen. Because when you lose someone off of your team permanently in the game, it hurts you a lot while you're playing. Because if you don't understand, in the game you can get beat up and thrown out of the game because you got your ass whooped, but you can come back with less health. So it's good and bad in a concept. But I remember Casket had a thing where one of his main abilities that he picked up, and if you took your captain, I think is what it's called, and put it in the casket, you were pretty much down.
It was done.
Yeah,
they fixed that. They fixed that ability quick because
yes,
it was a bit busted.
Yeah,
I think there's just like any game, you have your growing pains, and you realize, hey, this isn't going to work, and this works. And I will say this, for the most part, for Steam Force so far, they've been pretty good about recognizing something once they see it's not working and adjusting where it's needed. I think that goes with some of a lot of the newer games, with them having the living document and not completely relying it on the hard copy type stuff for things. You start getting, I think, better feedback from the players and seeing stuff and be like, we can change this. It's okay, because they can get it online for free. It's no big deal if we do an adjustment. And I think Steam Forge has been pretty good about that. And like you said, that was season 1 early on. Casting starting season 2 had that, and then people were like, no, you can't do that. That's ball busting when you have 6 models only on the play and you're down to 5 the rest of the game.
Correct. Yeah, because if you take and lose a guy, it can really hurt you, especially if you take a guy and you lose them right at the very beginning. Especially when they haven't been able to do their special, what people would consider feat, which they couldn't get that off, and they were just ball busting gone. It'd have been super, super bad for you. You would have lost
it. It is
quite
good
easy.
to note also that the guys who made this, Matt Hart and Rich Loxham, are old War Machine players, so there's a lot of similarities between the games.
Yeah, there's a lot of, especially with influence allocation. It reminds me a lot of War Machine with Warcasters and balancing that stuff.
But they did a good job making it different.
Yes.
So I would say the state of the game right now, I think it's at a healthy point as far as playability. But it kind of goes back to reminds me like when I played War Machine. And when you're getting towards the end, right before lock and load, and you're waiting for the new steamroller to come out, because everybody's figured out who's played competitively, what works and what doesn't work in that steamroller format from before, and you're just kind of waiting for that anticipation for the next steamroller to see if the stuff you have is still good in the new formats. And so I think that's where War Machine is right now, because they're preparing to roll out season 4 come early October at SteamCon US. And so I think it's kind of towards the end of this 3rd season. I think most of the players have figured out what works the best. It's kind of been meted out enough that people knows what's going to what plays what and what to play against what. And so you're kind of getting toward the end of that year run of people figuring out what's the best combos versus the best combos. And so I think season 4 is being anticipated because everybody's ready for the new stuff to roll out.
Well, you mentioned seasons. Why is this like a new mark or is it just like a new FAQ?
So they've done a pretty good job with this idea. So every year is a season for the game, and they treat it kind of like how you would like a sports kind of franchise or season. So you have a year goes by in the game world, and they readjust some of the players and the cards. So they do updates to current players.
Mm-hmm.
They realize maybe what wasn't working over the year or didn't work as intended to work, and it kind of gives them a storyline wise to refocus players already in the game, and also a logistic way to readjust things that need to work differently within the game. So they kind of get to do both things at one time. And now it's become like a regular thing. Like, every year this is the new season. When the season hits, the readjustment's coming. So
Now,
kind of
does
just
every model get a readjustment or just like certain ones?
Season 3, I think every model got touched in some way. It was pretty much a big time readjustment. I think season 1, towards the end of it, and the adjustments they had already done, figuring out after the Kickstarter what was working and what wasn't working.
Uh-huh.
So I think season 2 didn't have that many revising other than cleaning up stuff and in story, but I think season 2 to season 3 had the biggest adjustment of models themselves, and I think that carried out throughout. Almost every team got touched in some way, and I think season 4 that's going to happen again.
You think the next season there's going to be a huge change and shift to the game?
Yeah, I think so. I think the play of the game is going to be the same, but I think they're going to maybe refocus how some teams are playing.
Well, I know that they did because originally when I started, they went all straight metal, and now they're going on all plastic.
Yeah.
And I know we have we had quite a few players locally, but I noticed that they were, and I listened to everything that goes on, they were complaining pretty heavily and pretty hard about problems getting models shipped out. Is there something going on production-wise at them that they're having problems getting, like, the new guilds out? Or is this something that... Is it their fault, or is it something else going on?
I think it's we had I think it was the Chinese New Year this year.
Uh-huh.
And I think it threw everything off because all of their plastics are not made in England.
Okay.
All their plastic stock is made in China.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what's thrown the wrench into everything. I think it seems like the majority of the plastics have got pushed back. And then
Chinese New Year always affects every company that doesn't own their own plastic creation facilities, which means anyone who's not GW.
You're right. And because if you look at their other releases, like their medals that they put out, so they've been putting out metal boxes of not full teams, but like smaller releases.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a box that came out a few months ago that had, from the storyline, these Union models had switched factions to join the main teams. And that set of veterans metal boxes came out when it was supposed to come out. And then the metal box for the new Faithful set that's all metals, they look like they're going to be coming out next week, fine on time. So I think it's just the plastics. I think it's the Chinese production side is what I think is holding stuff up.
Okay. There was a question that I heard from one of my local players, and they were pretty upset about this, and I didn't know the full gist, and I was going to wait to talk to you about it till he came here, about models being discontinued. Like a lot of the mercenaries, I guess, their version of mercenaries kind of are no longer used.
So what's happened in the game, it's the same thing, and I keep going back to War Machine.
Yeah.
But so, like, if you remember, like, in War Machine in Mark II, I think they constantly had a problem with how do you make the mercenary faction balance to work with the main factions. You are a pirate. Being a pirate is a do what you want because a pirate is free. You are a pirate. And he works for this faction. If I make him too strong to work with that faction, we're gonna have issues with Boomhowler and company.
Yeah. John, will you give Deathbringer next a shout out? Deathbringer, thanks for the raid. We appreciate it. For people just coming in, we are talking about the State of Guildball right now while I'm working out painting a purple sun. Sorry about that, Antonio. Mercenary models.
Yeah, so I think when Guildball first came out, the season 1, I think their concept behind it was the Union team, which was like your mercenaries, would fill in gaps on other teams that didn't have those options.
Correct.
So if you're playing fishermen who are a very goal-oriented team, you could use a Union model who was a takeout kind of specialist and recruit them for your team to use for your team. And so at first, there was no limit of the amount of Union models you could have on your main team. And towards the end of season 2, you started seeing where that was getting abused. To where in the U.S. National Tournament Gen Con, the winner of that event had the captain and mascot and one other model was the only team models in their team, and the rest of their team was all Union specialists being used by the team. So then season 3 rolled around and said, okay, we're going to limit the amount of models you can use from Union in your opposite teams. And now in the story fluff and in the game itself, they've let it be known for the last couple of years before it even completely goes into effect, is that Union is going to stop being able to be used by other teams. They're going to be a team to themselves. Okay. And they're not going to be a team that can get rented out anymore.
That's a bold move because making people unable to potentially use models that they bought is generally negative, but I appreciate a company that's willing to balance stuff properly like that.
Yeah, because I mean, so it was done for a balancing factor, not done because fuck you, we don't like mercenaries.
Yeah, but some people that's what they like. So I mean, it's weird. It's oof.
Well, and a way to make it up, like I talked before about these minor league teams coming out. So in the fluff and in gameplay, to kind of as like a curtail to that, these minor league teams are all associated with an individual major team. So you still have some models outside of your current team's roster that you could take from those minor league teams that are taking the place of the Union players.
Gotcha.
So, for instance, like Morticians, their minor league support team is the Rat Catchers, and you can take some Rat Catcher models in your Morticians team. But this whole, like, not Union being able to be used with the main teams, that's going to take another full season before that's completely implemented. So as they release minor league teams, the major teams, once they get their minor, will not be able to use them, the Union. So as of right now, there's only 2 teams that can't use Union models, and that is the Morticians, and then as soon as the Falconeers are released, it'll be the Hunters. But everybody else still gets Union options.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, gotcha. So as they fill out the teams, they're going to take away the Union options. That's cool.
Yeah, they want the Union just to be a team to itself now, and not really have. And I can see it because I remember thinking Signar's too strong to have access to this unit from, mercenaries. And I think the same thing happened with Guildball is you start figuring out this team's too strong to have access to that Union model. That shouldn't be an option. And trying to balance the main team with options to come into a team from a whole other team is, I think, why they kind of like start pulling away. Is like, look, we're gonna start limiting this Union stuff. And I think,
well, yeah, I mean, War Machine did it also. That's why Merknar is no longer a thing. They've had to rein that in because you saw Signar armies that had like a Caster and Jax and a solo or two, and the rest was all mercenaries.
Correct. Yeah, and I remember that because I remember playing Merknars.
Yeah, so it's not as they intended. But I appreciate a company that's willing to make the hard calls like that because not every company is.
Yeah, and I think they did a pretty good job of notifying the players because they told them last year, last SteamCon. So last year it was announced that this is something that's going to start getting implemented. So they had all of season 3, which is this full year, to know that that's going to change, and they still have a good part of next year before that gets completely done with. So,
No, fair enough. I actually want to go back to something we chatted about a second ago about the plastic models.
yeah.
Something I've heard locally is, do you think that the plastic models are causing some veteran gamers to not get into it because they seem too much like board game pieces?
I haven't seen that. I have seen, so a lot of my friends who game are painters as much as gamers,
Hmm.
and the only complaints I get for that is they feel like the plastics aren't as clean as the metals.
Which is a
And
standard plastic to metal thing, but
yeah, and I think that that's the only like big complaint I've heard is that um, it's not the board game feel at all. It's the painting, because some of my friends who were like heavy into the painting side, there were some really nice models that were metal models that I feel like they feel like haven't got not as good when they became plastics.
well, yeah, we actually had a local story. Someone actually walked up to one of the boxes of the Guild Ball, like, "Oh, this is cool. What board game is this for?" And I'm like, "Oh my,
Oh
this is
yeah,
gonna be an awkward conversation."
that kickoff box that they released um,
Million bucks.
was very board game-ish looking, but I think they may be trying. We're just like, hey, maybe we'll pull in some board gamers into this game as well.
Absolutely, but it's a balancing act. It's just something I'd
Yeah.
heard, and figured I'd see if you'd heard anything similar. Most of the guys are saying that the plastic farmer's box is miles better than the kickoff box, which is good. I haven't taken a good look at it.
Yeah. You could see the steady progression in the plastics. The kickoff box was good, not amazing. The farmer box started getting really good plastics. And then I just recently painted the rat catchers box, and you could tell even they are better than the farmer's box. So it looks like they're figuring those plastics out more, and now I think they're doing another real big push on resins as well, where you're gonna be able to get a resin option of some of those teams if you want even higher quality. That's basically a slight step under than the metals.
Cool. Do you know if the metal models are still commonly available, or are they hard to get?
For all the major teams, you can still get the metal teams, because the box sets of the 6-man teams that they have now, they're all metal except for the brand new teams. So other than the farmers and the rat catchers and the soon to be falconeers, everybody else is still, you can buy metals except maybe the masons and the farmers because they were in the kickoff box.
So, what if you've got the first release box, let's say Alchemist as a random example, totally random, and you needed more models, you still get those models?
Well, if you have the you're talking about the 3-man box that had like the mascot
Yes.
and the two player, or the player and the two. The boosters
Captain
are
and 2 players, yeah.
yeah, the boosters are harder to get now, but you can still buy the box sets that would have all the models. I don't even know if I think most of the stores that had the 3-man sets, they're pretty much gone for the most part. I
Well,
see them every once in a while, but I guess I can see where somebody may have bought like on a website where they still had some left. But most of the time, people are buying the 6-man boxes now. They have the ready to go team.
someone may have bought one during a previous podcast where his co-host was talking about playing it and never really got around to putting those models together. Just saying, unrelated.
You can go onto websites. I'm sure you can find the boosters I had.
Gotcha.
Um,
So here's one you may not know because it does speak to what Steam 4 does. Maxim DT wants to know, does Steam 4 do resin and metal in-house? I mean, I would assume they do at least the metal in-house,
yes,
but do you know if
yes.
they do?
The metal and the resin are done in house. The plastics are all overseas.
Well, yeah, because I discussed it on the chat room real quick. For everyone who doesn't know, metal having a machine that actually plastic injection machine is expensive as hell.
Thanks for
and the
following,
molds have
Deathbringer.
gotten cheaper, but it's still super expensive for those molds. It is better to get another company to do it. It's more cost effective because they've already got all the stuff. I think GW is actually the only company that does their own plastics. So, let's see. I haven't seen anyone there. Let's see.
I got a question about state of the players.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. Let's get into that
because
too. But
because one of the things that I've been seeing is, of course, you and I go to a lot of cons,
Yeah.
and of course, Gen Con. We went to MomCon. You know, all those other things. How is the tournament scene like? Is it gotten better? Because when I first started playing, it was we would get 12 to 15 people at meta games, and 10 or so players. But locally, we've kind of died down. Has it started growing bigger and better since the years have gone on? How is it compared here and overseas? Because I know overseas it's quite a bit
Overseas is
bigger.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we got more players here in the U.S. just because of the size of the U.S. So it's kind of hard to do like a count versus like how many U.S. players
No,
versus
no. I mean,
say,
just overall. Like, what's
So
a standard turnout? Like, what would be the? Did you go to Adepticon? I can't remember.
so Adepticon, yeah, I was at
Yeah, I
Adepticon.
thought so.
So Adepticon had a pretty good turnout. It was about the same, maybe slightly less at this Adepticon as than last year's one. I think it was about the same. If there was a drop off, it wasn't much.
Okay.
I noticed that so it seems like I think because it's such a easily transported game
Yeah.
because you have less models and less setup. If you've got a pitch yourself and you have a few of the printed out terrain or some homemade terrain, you could carry it all around in your bag and stuff. So I would notice that more people tend to play it casually at home with their buddies than at game shops at times. So I noticed that with the game, which is a lot different than other games. I think like if you play 40K, you need like space
Oh yeah, you need a
to
ton
set
of
that
space.
thing up, and
yes.
you need a lot of terrain, and even War Machine is like that. And Malfo, even though it's on a 3x3 play space, you still need a lot of terrain to play the game correctly. And so I feel like there's a lot of people who have game nights at their house with their buddies and have a few drinks and play Guild Ball. So I don't think you see as much casual gameplay, but I think people show up more to events like tournaments than they do to just like pick up games like once a week at a game shop. In my area, we've been anywhere from 10 to 16-ish players when I host a tournament.
Gotcha.
But I don't know if my area is an anomaly or whatnot but I've been pushing real hard. I do a good amount of traveling between my shop in Louisville to go into Indy, to go into Cincinnati, to go into Fort Wayne, to try to go to those like other shops are all like 2 to 3 hours away to be like, hey, I'm coming down to your place to play with my 3 or 4 guys. Why don't you guys meet up at our place with your 3 or 4 guys so we have like a regular rotation of play going on. I know in March we did Bourbon Trail, which we had a good amount of people at that tournament. That exact same weekend, we had like 26 at our tournament. Down in North Carolina, they had a tournament the exact same weekend and it had like 40 to 50 players playing in it. So I think as far as the health of the game, people are playing it.
Yeah.
So that actually let me get mine in, Gonzo, because it's
Go ahead.
related. You mentioned you don't see a lot of people playing casually, and honestly, in a lot of people's minds, the health of the game is, best determined by the casual. Do you think there's anything keeping the casuals from playing? Because, like you said, it's an easy transportable game. I don't know why you wouldn't necessarily see them for a game night.
I think, like I said, is you'll see most of the guys I know locally that play, and then the ones like Chicago has a pretty good meta around this area nearby, and so does the Carolinas. I think they have an active kind of like pundit pushing for a game night, but I think a lot of people. It seems like when we do leagues and tournaments is when we have the most people showing up to play.
Gotcha.
If it's just like just play one game in the middle of the week, just meet up, that seems to happen less.
Gotcha. Are you seeing a bunch of new players?
Recently in my area, We got like 3 or 4. I know the last tournament I went to that was like a bigger tournament at Adepticon when we had the big qualifier like championship tournament for Adepticon. There was a lot of people playing that I had not seen for in the 3 years I've been playing the game. So there was new players playing in the tournament scene. As far as like local players, just people picking up, there's like 3 or 4 new guys we got.
Gotcha. Okay. It's getting sort of later, so I'm gonna throw some more questions at you, sort of quasi rapid fire, and I'm sure Gonzo's got some more too. But I've got some more I'm gonna ask.
Good.
When a new person or potential player comes by, do you think their opinion of the game is hurt by the potential amount of tokens and such that may be on the field? Because I've seen that some of the guys, they have all the accoutrement, it's like tokens everywhere. People come in, take a look, and they immediately walk away.
That's actually one of the things we've been talking about in the game itself is the amount of tokens. Because I think not just in Guildball, but in all these games, the token player obsession has become
real
dramatic.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when there was no pre-measuring in a lot of these games, and then pre-measuring became a thing, and then it became how many different widgets for pre-measuring can we use for this game? And I think that's in every game system. I think the biggest thing for casual players, and this is for any game system, not just Guildball, is you have to find the right people to teach them to play the game.
True.
And I think when you have a very competitive player who doesn't like to lose, and they're playing against somebody who's looking to get into the game, sometimes that's a bad matchup. And I think that happens a lot with a lot of games.
Yeah, every game. You've got to platinum play the right people. And it's not necessarily competitive to non-competitive. One of our local guys who played Guildball, Matt Hennemeyer, is probably one of the best people for a new person to play, even though he's what you would call very competitive. He knows how to dial it back and teach the guy while he's playing. And he can defeat a guy, but the guy still feels like, yeah, I learned a lot. That was great. While we have other people who are quasi-competitive who just can't dial back from crush.
I remember it was probably like 4 years ago when DC had wrote a article about that in general, just for gaming. Like, you have to know how to let new players learn. And you can learn from new players. Like, I've played guys in Guildball that are brand new players or newer players, and I think I know everything because I've been playing for so long, and they do something. I'm like, hey, that's a pretty cool idea. I never thought of that combination. So letting them play and not getting in a situation where you beat them down and they feel like this game is imbalanced and not fun to play. And I think that's hard for some people to do. Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I don't think that Guildball has too much of that, aside from maybe if someone just is a scoring master and ends the game too quick.
Yeah. I think for the most part, and that's one of the things I liked about the game, is even early on when I was learning it and I lost, I still felt like there was things I could do. I didn't feel like I was playing a game where it was so lopsided because of an imbalance that there was no chance that I was going to ever come close to doing anything in the game fun.
It's like early War Machine. You look like, oh, I see how I could do this and this different and actually, come out ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. I have one more, then we'll let Gonzo take it home.
Okay.
Do you think the re-release of Blood Bowl has hurt?
No. If any of the game systems coming out that I think could maybe make a dent, and this is for any of the skirmish games, is I think that kill team coming out for 40K is going to be scaring a lot of guys.
Gotcha.
And a lot of companies, because I think a lot of people playing Malfo and Guildball and games like that, the smaller skirmish level games, are going to be looking over their shoulders like, okay, let's see how good this kill team thing is going to be from 40K.
Yeah, I just used Blood Bowl because it came out and it seemed locally like Guildball took a little bit of a dip at that point.
Yeah. Well, I always think that like Guildball is you have some of the players who are like mainstays, like this is my main game. But I think you have more players who play Guildball, play multiple systems.
Yeah, we talked about it in the chat room of being a very good secondary game.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who play Guild Ball also play War Machine or also play Malifaux or 40K. It's not their main game. I think also a good thing about it is once you learn the core rules on how to play it, you could always put it down and come back and play again, and it's not that big of a difference. You may have to reread cards for your players or opposing players when you're playing against them, but I think it's takeouts and scoring goals. If you remember how to do the takeouts and scoring goals, you're pretty set to come back whenever you want to come back to the game.
So it's not like our coming back to Infinity and really hosing it up by
Yeah, I mean,
because it's been a while.
and with them having the free app where you can update your cards whenever, I think, and then the rule book's in there too. So I think anybody who played the game previously and may have stepped away to play something else can always come back into it, update their file on their phone or on their device and be like, okay, let's play again. Because the core rules are still the core rules. They have not changed that much.
Thanks for the follow, Lost and Found. We appreciate it, buddy.
Gonzo, that's all I've got. He got through all my questions. So you got anything left?
Yeah, I actually do because I actually played it competitively. Yeah, you're like, yeah, Gonzo doesn't have something to say? I know that when I played...
That was a segue, sir.
I know. There has always been issues with one model just rips the shit out of another team. One thing I had, what was it? It was Alchemist, where you could steal a person's abilities and then use it.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name.
Midas.
Yeah, Midas took one of my players' abilities and just killed 4 of my players.
And that was one of the big changes between season 2 and season 3.
Okay.
They were like, Gatsby 2.
Yes.
Or Spacicus 2. Like, I could be playing a game and be hosing the player the whole game. They have nothing left. And then I'm going to pop feet now and win. And you're like, I did all this stuff. I have all the control points, and I should win this game, but now I just lost because of this one feat. Guildball had that. And Midas was one of the worst with that ability in season 2.
Correct.
And he got checked in season 3. And I think they did a good job listening to the community say, okay, what is not fun play experience? Like, what is models that you run into that you're like, this just isn't fun? And Midas is one of those guys. Is like, not only was he too strong with that ability, it made you as the opposing player not be able to play models that you wanted to play. And I think that's leads to a not fun experience. You're like, well, I really want to use this guy, but I can't use it because they're using Midas.
Correct. Because I couldn't play with one model because I knew if I saw Midas, I was done for.
Yeah. There's probably gas with the unmasking.
Yes.
You steal a mask and you just be like, I'm going to rip you apart now.
Yeah.
And which is hilarious. As soon as somebody did that to me early into playing the game, somebody did that to me. And I contacted Matt Hart and said, hey, this isn't cool.
Yeah, it was totally ball breaking.
This isn't working, and I think they had some stuff like that, and I think it's just where you play it and you figure it out, and you're like, yeah, this isn't going to work. And I think for the most part, they adjusted. When the Farmers came out, which is not too long ago, Thresher, their captain was a little over the top, and I think within 3 months, they dialed him back some and errated him and said, hey, look, he's a little bit too good, so we're going to adjust him. So I think they're doing a good job of listening to the community and making adjustments that are practical adjustments and not just knee-jerk reactionary adjustments.
Because I know it was like him and then the hammer guy on Masons.
Yes.
And he just walked through. I was at the final tables of a tournament, and he shows up, and he just walks through 3 of my guys. And I'm like, from full health to death. And I'm like, what? I was like, this is bad. I looked at my opponent, he goes, yeah, this is going to have to be tweaked and figured out and changed. And I pretty much had stopped playing after that because the game just wasn't mine. I didn't,
right.
It wasn't my type of game. It was not a thing. But I know that they changed it and fixed it. And I think that's what people need to understand, that if you played it at one point, try it again if it's still something you're interested in. Because I know that was one of the things people complained about was things were just busted in that game.
They're one of the good companies on fixing stuff too.
Correct.
I mean, most companies are fixing stuff now, but they're one of what I would consider the top tier ones on fixing stuff.
Yeah, like I mean, I even remember when I was, playing War Machine, and was start of Mark II, and Gatsby first came out, and I was just like, "What are you guys doing?" And I remember the first tournament I went to, and somebody charged their large base cavalry as ghosts through models and ripped me apart, and I was like, "That's not good." And he just got slowly tweaked until the new edition came out. But I mean, I think Guildball's done a good job of seeing stuff. They're very data driven, and even to the point of where you can see that from their posting system, which is the Longshank system.
Yep.
Where they keep track of all the game stuff. You got a pretty good database of seeing, like, what captains are winning and what the percentages of them winning against certain other captains and teams. And I think that's really helpful. And even if you're a newer player, it's good for you to see, like, if you're wanting to get into a team, you're like, I really think alchemists are good. Let me see which of these captains play how, and how are they stacking up against other captains and other teams. It gives you a way to kind of look at that and get an idea of maybe what is working and not working at the time.
Yeah, and as I said before, these are War Machine guys. So they've seen all of this stuff before, and they're learning from it.
Yeah.
So it's almost time for our media section. What do you think the state of the game is based on all the information you've seen and going to tournaments and blah, 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 and the company? What's your opinion on the state of the game?
I think it's in a healthy place right now. They've seemed to be putting out the newer models that just came out, the veteran models for current teams, not the minor teams. They seem to be doing some spikes as far as like having some really high tier models going into teams that may not have had those high tier models. And I think they're doing that to kind of shake it up toward the end of the season. So I think that's a good thing, because now you're seeing more variety at tournaments, not just the same stuff. And then I think season 4 is going to be a big push for them to see where they take the game. Because I think they want to. There seems to be a real dichotomy in the game. In Europe, there seems to be more goal-oriented players who play the soccer side more. In the U.S., it seems to be more, I'm going to beat you up, takeout teams. And I think yeah. Surprise,
I know what you're talking about.
But I think the big push for season 4, and it wouldn't be the surprise to me from what I've been hearing from people, is that soccer is going to get a big push into the game again, to where that's like a bigger part. Because if you're just fighting each other, then you can play any skirmish game to fight each other. Yeah. If you're not doing the soccer part, then why are you playing this game?
Damn right.
Well, butchers, they don't really want to. They just
they need to learn how to.
So, they should be the SKU. I think you have to tailor a game to 2 SKUs. You have, like, the butcher should be. Their thing is, they should be the best BD team of the BD teams and be garbage at soccer, and they suffer for it. And then the opposite end spectrum should be the fishermen, who should be the best goal scoring team there is in the game. And if this comes to takeouts, they're in some big trouble if they have to win the game that way. And then you kind of scale from there for the other teams. So I think the butchers would be the exception for that. And people should know that going in when they play that team. But I think as for the game overall, I think they want to see the ball being passed around more goals being scored to speed up the game, so that it is that true, like, super fast skirmish game that, you feel like games are getting done in like 45, 50 minutes.
Gotcha.
Oh, yeah. So, Gonzo, based on what you heard, what do you think the state of the game is from your quasi-informed position?
We don't have a lot of players anymore. It's kind of died down. We are, because we don't have a pundit that's really running anything, and it's kind of just took a big old slump. But seeing all my other friends and seeing, different things, and of course listening to my store, I think it's in a decent place. I don't know how, like, it's the reason why it was important for me to hear his answer on new players, because that's what's going to matter. It doesn't matter how many old players you get, it's how many new players you're getting in. And that's
my big one too.
Super important to any game. If it's just you and 3 guys, but you have 40 people coming into the store and nobody else is joining, That's a problem for a game because then it's
That's
just
where War
you and three
Machine's at.
guys. There it is. Um, so you've got to start finding more players. I think it's on an even keel right now. I don't think there's. I haven't seen a lot of growth, but I haven't seen a ton of people just like, oh, this game sucks and no ever play it. So I think they're at a good spot right now, in my opinion.
I agree. I think they're at a good spot, but not good enough that they could rest on our laurels. They need to keep going.
Yes,
Convince their pundits to get more casual stuff in there because casual keeps the game flowing. Those are the guys who are the money makers and get more people excited on random game nights.
correct.
Our guys only meet once a month maybe, and I think that's too little for those guys. They need to get more guys in there. But I do see new guys every Sunday they play, so that is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel like it's in a solid place, but they should keep pushing it.
Yeah, you
Well, I think
can't
it's like-
rest.
I think it's like any games. I think that kind of get off track and stuff. A few years ago when they had that whole issue of Magic the Gathering,
Yeah.
and the organized play guys, and how that really scared the shit out of companies about having people work and do stuff for them. I think that
Yes, that definitely hurt.
that hurt a lot of games.
Yes.
I think that hurt across the board, and I think finding people like press gangers or what were press gangers and pundits who are gonna be willing to put in that time to promote a game that's the biggest thing. And I think it's for any games. Is if you have people who are willing to like really push it, you'll get people playing. And I think that just comes down to finding that right person to be able to do that type of job. I mean, I do once a month at least a tournament or some kind of event to try to promote. And then, like I said, I travel around from a 2 to 3 hour span to kind of promote my stuff. So that's why I think I see in my area we have a good turnout for stuff on a regular basis. But I think that all goes back on getting the right people to do the right stuff.
Absolutely.
All right, looks like it's about time to go hit our media sections. Guys, if you are brand new to our stream, go ahead and hit that follow button. You can also get stuff getting on because we are going to be doing some giveaways later on. If we hit either of our three goals, either it be donations, followers, subscribers, we will be giving away. And this month's giveaway, I'm going to reach over and grab it, is, as I'm almost done with my purple sun, is a Kador Extreme Destroyer Heavy Warjack. Let me give that away. Excuse me as I pull up my drawers because I've been sitting down too much.
And for patrons who are listening, the latest minis and movies, I have a giveaway in that. Listen to the latest episode for details.
What?
Yeah, I didn't tell you about that.
No.
Sly.
So, guys, if you are a patron subscriber, make sure you go over because we only released a link to that on our patron site. And you have to be a patron subscriber to see them and download them. And also, if you'd like to...
go ahead.
If you want to be a patron subscriber, please go over there. You get the pre-rambles for $1. $5 you get a painting hangout with Kathy once a month, and a bunch of other stuff that we give away, minis and movies, all those other things, and a free die, our personal mascot.
Yep.
And if you are a $15 one, you get all the lower stuff, of course, and a raffle to win one of minis painted by Kathy. And if you're a $20, you get, of course, everything below, but you get 2 tickets in the raffle, and you get to force me to sing one song of your choice once a month. So do it. You also get that. Also, if you're a subscriber here on our channel, you'd also get the badges, emotes, which we are having some new ones made up by one of our awesome role players. She is working on those currently.
And if you're interested to hear a minis and movies without being a patron, just shoot me an idea. You can find me on the Facebook page through Morden Dice, Twitter at John O. Spencer, or you can email me at johnoaklandspencer@yahoo.com. Throw me an idea for a movie to watch or a gaming-related topic and or rant, since you do those quite a bit. Ranty guy. And I will also send you a copy of that minis movie so you can see what it's all about.
Also, for our patron subscribers, we still are locked at 4 episodes a month. We never charge anything more than that. Never will be. If we get once we do 4 things, we charge you twice. We charge you 4 times, and after that, everything else is free.
Yep.
We don't ever charge you more than 4 episodes for anything, and that is for everything. We put out a lot of content. I was really surprised after talking to another patron. They were like, "Y'all put out way too much stuff for free. You should be charging more." And I'm like, "No, that's not what we're there for.
No.
Our guys help us keep the
we
bills
can't
on."
charge for sewer bear or anything. Good lord, we just that's gotta be free.
I mean, here's the thing: we do it so we can keep the lights on. That's pretty much about it, guys, and get y'all some stuff and get things going.
We're not trying to make money. This is not going to become our livelihood.
This is not going to be our job.
That'd be great, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I actually had someone that had listened to our cast and listened to a couple of others asked us and was questioning about things like that. I'm like, no, I will never be able to quit my day job and do this permanently. We don't want it to be. This is our hobby.
No.
And for our patron subscribers, we love you a lot. You are about to make one of my dreams come true.
Xander Vorlord needs his die, and he needs to get you to sing a bunch of songs. So look forward to that.
Xander, you should have a die. If not, give me a bit, and I will not only get you a die, I will get you a complete set because you are. No, you. Wait a minute. Yes, you do. You got like 3 sets from us, didn't you?
Oh, War Machine Weekend. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let's hit this media section because we got a lot, and we spent a lot of it doing business.
Yes, which we appreciate.
Yes.
How many do you have?
I can talk about 2 things because I'm reading a book and I watched 1 movie.
I have 6 things to talk about.
And I know Antonio's got a couple things too. Let's have us rotate through, and then you can take it home after we're done, just in case.
Okay.
We cut you off if we run out of time.
Yeah, thanks for cutting me off.
And of course, guest first, Antonio. What would you like to talk about?
The first thing was a silly show I watched on Netflix with my son and my middle daughter, who's a freshman in high school, called The Hollow. It's a cartoon series on Netflix. It was incredibly good. Like, it came out of nowhere. We were just sitting down. I was like, let's watch it. And not to give spoilers away if you haven't seen the show.
We're spoiler free here.
As much as possible, yeah.
Yep.
So it started off, and this, if you just watch the show, this isn't a spoiler thing, with these 3 kids who wake up, and it's a cartoon in a room and with a typewriter in it, and they can't remember who they are, where they come from, or what's going on. And the whole show reminded me of like mini D&D adventures, almost like that old D&D show cartoon from the 80s where they get thrown into the D&D world. They don't know what's going on. Kind of like that, but with sci-fi elements in it too. That very much call back to like 80s sci-fi and horror and fantasy genres. And it was really, really cool. And we went from like, oh, let's just check out the show and watch an episode or two to within 2 days we watched the whole season during summer break. So that was a good and bad dad moment, maybe. But we really liked the show. I was surprised of how good the show was.
Yeah, and the animation looks pretty good style too.
Yeah, it reminded me some of those Cartoon Network animated TV shows. I mean, the animation was solid, and the show just was like good storyline, good things to try to figure out. I mean, my kids were like, "Ooh, who's this? And why does he continue to do this?" And it was just really neat show. It was a fun experience.
So we explained our rating scale to you. How many space herpes does this show get?
Well, the more, the worse, I heard.
Correct.
So I would say for an animated series, I would say 2.5.
Oh.
It was really good.
So probably 2 then, because the least amount of herpes, the better.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, generally 2 is good, but not the greatest thing.
I would say just 2 then. Just
All right.
2 of them.
So my first one is going to be a movie that actually prompted me to record another movie emergency, not about it, but about related things. And I'm not going to spoil that. But if you've seen this movie, check out movie emergency number 3. This is Antman and the Wasp.
What?
It is, I guess, the first time in a long time I've been a week late in reviewing a Marvel movie, so bad me, but life was crazy. Um, this picks up after Civil War, and of course, Scott Lang's on house arrest because he made a deal. Because otherwise, he would get like 30 years in prison. I find it funny that so quickly they've went from "we're going to sign these accords" to "you're in prison because you're superhuman and did stuff." Doesn't really pass the logic test, but the movie doesn't give you time to think about that. It picks up where the last one left off. It's super fun, super interesting. The basic premise that I don't spoil because it gives it off early is that uh, Janet and or not Janet, Hope and God and Hank are trying to find his wife Janet, and in the what do they call it? In the Shrinky Realms. Let's
Yeah,
call them the Shrinky Realms
the
because I
Shrinky
can't remember where
Realms.
they go because I've been drinking. And it's all based around that and hilarity and hijinks, and everyone from the first movie pretty much is back except for the cop stepfather's partner, but he didn't really do anything, so he's the only role I like. He didn't come back, but that's okay. But the stepfather's back, the mother's back, the daughter's back. They're all great. Um, Not all of the comedy hits, but the stuff that quite kind of misses is actually more of setup for later comedy that actually pretty much hits. So you can't take too many away from that. The action's good. Not quite the same style. It's not just sort of like a Marvel heist movie. It's a little different than that. But it's super fun, super enjoyable. It's got Walton Goggins in it as a crooked arms dealer. Uh, it's got Lawrence Fishburne in it as a old scientist acquaintance of Hank Pym's of Michael Douglas. The cast is great. Everyone does a pretty good job. It's just enjoyable from front to back. It is not as good as the first one, but it's not really its fault. It's trying a different thing, and I mean, Ant-Man 1 was lightning in a bottle. You can't necessarily catch that twice. Overall, I very much enjoyed it. I'd suggest going to see it. There are two after-credit scenes, one mid-credit scene and one end of the credit scene. You could skip the end of the credit scene, but I would stay for it because why not? Everyone's out of the theater by that point. You get an easier walk out. And overall, I'm going to give it one space herpy just because some of those jokes don't hit, but they do set up good stuff. And Michael Pena, well, he's not quite as much as he is in the first one. Every time he's on, it's pretty magic, and he is hilarious as hell. Gonzo, what's your first one out of 6?
Out of 6, I definitely spend a lot of time watching Netflix movies, doing other things. I'm glad I do other things while I watch movies. I watched Game Over, Man, on Netflix. It's pretty much, I'll describe it as quickly and easy as I can as possible. 3 potheads try to do Die Hard. That's about it. 3 extremely high idiot potheads try to rescue people that are captured in a hotel high rise.
McDonough in it. Can't be bad.
It had some good. It had a couple of funny parts. It's supposed to be a comedy. It had a couple of funny parts. It wasn't bad, but it's just like this is the whole Die Hard plot, just with 3 high kids.
Okay.
Talking about, I mean, there were some things like this guy took a hit off of a joint and went instantly psychedelic off of smoking and puffing one thing. It was like, it's way over the top. Just pretty bad. My last Pathfinder crew, pretty much. But I mean, it's not bad and it's not good. It's just right there in the middle. It's like 2.5 to 3 space herpes.
Gotcha.
So if you got a little spare time, go and watch it. There's a couple of scenes you're like, did they really? Yeah, that's fucked up. And then, that's pretty damn gross. But otherwise, not bad.
All right. Antonio, what's your second one?
I saw it kind of late. The new Jurassic World movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys reviewed it or not.
No?
We haven't even seen the first Jurassic World movie.
Well, there you go. So here's my knock of the movie without giving out spoilers and people who love Chris Pratt are going to hate me when I say this. but he's the same guy in every movie he plays. He is him. He is himself at just a different job. He's like, I'm Star-Lord now, dealing with dinosaurs, and
I'm in the
I'm
Wild
Star-
West. I'm slightly quirky gunslinger. Yeah. He's pretty much the same guy.
yeah.
I can't argue.
So that's my biggest knock. Is when you see him in a movie now, I feel like he's playing the same character, and then I always felt like the original Jurassic Park, and even the one that came out 2 years ago, where it was contained within a park setting,
Mm-hmm.
and especially the original from Michael Crichton's writing,
Mm-hmm.
there was a sense of believability. Like I could see this happening in the future someday, like where they genetically clone, things that they shouldn't be cloning and putting them in some kind of exhibit for people to go see. And Crichton, because he was such an amazing writer, if you read the book, you just fell into it. And I felt the movie had that sense of wonder when you saw dinosaurs for the first time on a big screen that looked good and didn't look like puppets and crap.
Yeah.
And I felt like the last one captured some of the original movies, like nostalgia. This one, some of the stuff just seems like you just think logistically this doesn't make any sense. And that was the problem. It wasn't the idea of there being dinosaurs being made. That's fine. I can believe that. The beginning of the plot where they're trying to rescue dinosaurs and that moral dilemma, like do you save them or not save them? That part's cool. But once some other stuff happened, and I don't want to go to the spoilers of the movie, you start going, this could never happen. this if this happened, certain stuff would be done immediately to make sure that it doesn't go past a certain stage, and it was completely unbelievable. And I felt like the Crichton books about it and the original stuff about it, they had that believability. Where the newest one, this new movie, just felt like, this you've taken it one step too far.
Gotcha. They set sort of rules for believability in the last one, and this one just goes so far past that you just can't even be in anymore.
Yeah, it just was too much. Like if you see a sci-fi movie, you'll believe the science fiction technology because you go into it saying this is a sci-fi movie and this makes sense. And I always felt like the Jurassic Park book in movies was always grounded in the idea that this could happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like this one was like, yeah, no, you're getting into stupid lane now.
Excellent. So, how many space herpes do you give it?
It's getting close to 3 for sure.
3 for sure. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was entertaining. Don't get me wrong; it was a fun movie to watch, but it wasn't. It wasn't one of those movies.
It wasn't good.
Like, to me, I always rate movies like how many times will I rewatch this thing? And after seeing it once, I'm like, I could probably rent it once because my kids maybe want to see it again and see it a second time. But after that, I'm good. I don't have to see this thing again.
Fair enough. My second one, real quick, is I'm about halfway through the 4th or 5th Jack Reacher book called Echo Burning.
Mm-hmm.
The funny reason why I'm reading Jack Reacher says something else. Remember, I wanted to read the BattleTech novels again?
Uh-huh.
Well, I need a bedside light because my room's very dark and none of the lights reach over to my bed so that I can read. Because apparently my eyesight is getting shit because I'm old. So I bought something on my Kindle, and the only series I had on it that I wanted to buy something for was that. So I'm like, oh, let's go. And it starts off slow as hell. I sort of see the point it's getting to, but I'm like, because the last one ended sort of on a weird note. It was a little bit weird ending. So I put the series aside for a while. Because the first several was like page turners. I loved them. And then that one, I'm like, this is a little weird. Let me give it a break. And I come back, and he starts off like slow as hell, and you're like, where is this going? And now finally about, halfway through, we've gotten to the point and seeing where it's going. So it's interesting. At about this point, I give it about 2 space herpes because that slow start is not good. You sort of see where things are going, but you got to grab people early. If I had not been invested in the series at this point, and really wanted something to read and not want to pay more money for another book on my Kindle, I might have put it down and gone to something else. And that's sort of a sin. So there you go. I got 2 Space Herpes. We'll see how it ends. I'll finish it up by the end of next week. So, Gonzo, I'm done. So it's you and Antonio finishing this off.
All right. My son, I watched the Netflix series Kiss Me First. It is a series about a girl that plays a virtual machine game that's kind of like a World of Warcraft or any type of open world game now, but in VR. It totes itself as a VR and real world intermingling and problems happening in both of them. The character is just this girl. Mother's really sick. Eventually dies, so she's got to get a job so she can pay for her, so she can get back online. Okay, no big deal. I can see this. They tout her as some special Neo type person from the Matrix, and they actually reference the Matrix through it. So I'm like, okay, cool. They're going with it. So she gets a job as a waitress, which really has nothing to do with what's going on, period, because one of her friends needs 650 pounds to pay for rent, and she just goes to the bank and gets that out and gives it to her other roommate and helps her out. And I'm like, wait a minute, she went to go get a job so she could pay for her fix, but she's got 650, and they're like, well, she just used so they just used the money from her mom's account. I'm like, this okay,
It's a lot.
it's stretching everything because they tout her as this great Neo type character for the game, and she doesn't do anything special in the game. Her mentor goes, oh, you'll really get this game and you'll really understand how to hack really well because you have a very mathematical mind. I
I have
went,
a mathematical
what?
mind. I can't hack shit.
And it just pulls random shit out of the air. It goes, oh, you must be really good at chess because you know what black and white look like.
So a little too much bullshit, not enough actual.
There was nothing. I was
Connection.
like, why is she the special character? Why does this and why does that? And it was bad.
Yeah, it's not getting great ratings on IMDb.
No, and it shouldn't. It was bad. And Kiss Me First had nothing to do with anything happening in the entire movie. So I was like, I can understand if like at the end of the season it was like, kiss me first before you destroy my life. And no, it wasn't even said. It wasn't even mentioned. It was bad. 4 Space Harpies. Save yourself some time.
Yikes. All right, Antonio, you got anything else?
I saw in rewatchability. I watched Man of Steel again today, and I think I've seen that movie. It probably is up there with like the superhero movies I've rewatched. And every time I watch it, I like it more, which is surprising because a lot of people have hate towards that movie.
I don't have
But
hate. I have mild apathy.
But I think there were so many between it and the dreaded Batman vs Superman movie
Oh, I hate that one.
that there were so many things. It was like, just do this little thing here. Just show this little thing, and you could completely make this movie so amazing. And I think it's one of my most watched movies that I watch. And I'm just like, I wish they would just had added this to it. And if they just would have added this to it, it would have been so good. Like when I watched the Batman vs Superman movie, the part I wish they would have had some kind of scene, and even in the Superman movie, the Man of Steel, where it shows him because he always looks so sad in the movies.
Shit, no doubt.
Why didn't they could have just so easily adjusted that if they just had one scene showing him flying somewhat above, like, say, Metropolis and trying to take it all in, like all of hearing everything and seeing everything. And then you realize, as super as he is, he can't do it all.
The best would have been at the end of Man of Steel, him flying above Metropolis and seeing the devastation, and that being his "this can never happen again," and him becoming Superman.
Yes,
because that's what I wanted when they mentioned they were going to do a Man of Steel movie. I'm like, another Super, like, I have hope. I feel like he's going to evolve into Superman, and then they announced Batman vs Superman, and I was like,
Yeah,
"Fuck my life."
I think that was a misbeat. I think they should have shifted. I think they needed another movie of Superman actually being Superman. I thought the first movie had such great potential setup into him being that Christopher Reeve Superman figure, that guy that is the hope that he's trying to tote towards it in that movie, and they just really missed out. I think there was a good setup movie that didn't follow through.
Yeah, because they could have ended the second one with him flying out into space and smiling for the camera, because every Superman needs to do that, because that's an iconic shot for every Superman. Brandon
It
Routh
is.
did it. Christopher Reeve did it. It was great for both of them. Should have done it. Would you agree that DC's just hampered by them trying to get some of that shared universe money?
I think the biggest issue for DC is they did the Batman trilogy and did an amazing job with the Nolan pieces. And they tried to fit in a circle peg, which is Superman, into that square peg, and it didn't work. And I think that's what their issues been. I think Wonder Woman said, "Screw you, we're gonna do what we want." And I
Yeah.
think they should have did that with Superman too. I think the first one was good, and then they should have went into like that. There's nothing wrong with having a character that's good,
No,
and
it's got to be a good guy in everything.
there's not a bad thing to have a character that's an appeal to morality and to show like younger generation. I mean, I grew up on the Christopher Reeve Superman, and he was a role model in a lot of ways of like how he saw the world. That even with all the bad, he was going to be good. He was going to grit through it and come out the other end and still be good. And I think they missed that. They rushed stuff and they didn't let Superman be Superman until it was too late.
So Gons and I watched. There's this YouTube channel called High Top Films that does some comparative stuff. And one of the biggest things they said, they're comparing Winter Soldier, or is it Civil War? Civil War to Man of Steel, and how they're trying to change characters. Or it might have been Winter Soldier. It was Winter Soldier, and how, you know, instead they changed Superman to fit in the movie rather than having him be the good guy. Like, no, he had a thing in there like, what's Superman's superpower, or weakness? It's not kryptonite. It's his humanity.
Yeah.
It's the fact that he cares for everyone, and that's why he can be as powerful as he is, because he's got to pull his punches and save people. I mean, I feel like they did it right in the end of Justice League. He could end that fight easily, but he's got to go save all these people from dying, and everyone else has to hold up the bad guy until Superman gets done. Which, I mean, it's fine. That's what teamwork's for.
Yeah, I always thought that was what made Superman good in the comics is when it's the whole moral dilemma of he could save this person, but then what happens if he goes saves them and leaves these other people behind?
Yeah.
And those were his best villains, not the ones that could just always go toe to toe with them. But
Well, that's why Lex Luthor could fight him, because it was never a physical fight. It was mind versus humanity, who can win. His amoral super intelligence or his, super powered humanity. But so what do you give Man of Steel overall? Because you obviously have, I think, a better opinion of it than I did, but I haven't rewatched it.
I would say a 2.
Okay. I feel like that's fair. I could feel like I could rewatch it and get that. I think I'd like to rewatch it after seeing Batman vs Superman. I have seen both versions. Thank you, Trolton Heston, who no longer follows us, but both versions. In case you ever care, the extended edition is categorically better.
Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah, but that's true of all their movies. Good to hear. Gonzo, we're at 9:30. You want to try and get some rapid fire ones out of the way?
Actually, I'm going to go get one, and I'm going to get a good one. That way
Okay.
we don't waste this last bit, and I'll hold the other ones off till later.
Talking about a good movie? What?
Yeah.
Yeah, save the rest for your all day cast. You're gonna need some content, dog. Trust me.
Oh, I've got plenty of content. Don't you worry about that. I've got a huge book to read. Which,
Okay.
guys, if you don't know, I'm doing a 24-hour podcast on Wednesday for charity for Extra Life. Please come out. Please show up. Please donate. Help them out. I kind of keep me awake. If you're a late night person, could really use some late night help. All right, I'm going to talk about the movie Cargo. It's another Netflix show, Netflix movie. It has the guy that played Bilbo Baggins. Or not Bilbo. Bilbo Baggins in The Hobbit. I can't remember his name. It is a zombie
Last time
movie
too.
set in Australia. So it was kind of different. The way they do the zombies is a little different, but this movie is about a man and wife trying to survive with their young kid, and having to try to go to a settlement that they heard about, where it's safer.
Martin Freeman.
Yeah, Martin Freeman. Um, they play the zombies off really well. They're not your slow lumbering. They're actually kind of fast and violent. It does play off the humanity of people really well. Martin does an amazing job in this movie. Very well liked, very well felt for the guy. He wants there to be good in the world, and so he tries to do good things. All the supporting characters are really good. There's some good oh shit what the fuck moments. You really feel for him through the entire movie, especially at the very end, and you're watching it and you're like, you really start to understand this guy and why he's like this. Spoiler free. I pretty much was almost going to bawl and cry at the very end because of what was going on. It was very, very heartfelt, very emotional. What happens at the end. A lot of people ask me, why do you watch movies that have like these endings that are either really, really super bad or things that happen really? Because I go, that's life.
That's how I know I still feel.
Yeah. But
if you don't have sad, you won't know the good.
Yeah.
You need to have all spectrum.
Yes. But this movie really hit, really good at the end. Really solid. It's not your typical zombie movie. It does have your typical things, but there's a lot of good things to this. I highly recommend you go and watch this movie. It caught me by surprise because I've had it on my queue for a while. And it's called Cargo. Go watch it. Enjoy it. You can kick me in the balls later once you get done watching it, for making you watch it because it's really good. But I recommend it. I would probably give it maybe 1 space herpes, just because there's a couple of little things that are like, okay. Yeah, you knew that was coming, but it was still really good. Highly recommend it. I'll say the other ones, and I'll give you a clue on some of the ones I'm going to be doing, and I'll save them for next week. I'm going to talk about The Outsider with Jared Leto, which was also another Netflix one. Then there was a movie that I've been dying to see because I've owned the graphic novel for a while, and it's I Kill Giants, which the book and the movie mean a lot to me because it has to deal with certain mental problems and also kids. And How It Ends, which got released today at Netflix. If you want to know what those are, wait until next Sunday. Other than that, that is another episode done. State of Guildball, episode 43. Guys, I'm going to send you off to someone else in just a little bit, so don't go anywhere. I'm going to show you off to Miss Hannah Hannaby. She's one of our friends and cohorts and helps us out, and we help her out.
Yep. And we do want to thank Antonio for jumping on and helping us out with this. We could have done it without him because we don't know Guildball like he does. And
correct.
Without him, we would be stuck with Devil Squid, and you don't want to hear him talk.
So, guys,
I love you, Jan.
Thanks for watching. We enjoy it immensely. Like I said, I'm going to send you off to Raid after we get through our music. So don't go anywhere. Go over there and give her a follow, squeeze, hug. Tell her Gonzo sent you. And we will get that going. So for More Than Dice, I'm Gonzo.
I'm John.
I'm Tony.
Good night, guys. Man,
I still don't have to pee.
You still don't have to pee? I'm going to have to pee pretty soon because that stuff goes through me quick. And I'm telling you right now, that Not Your Father's, I could drink probably 6 of those in no time flat and be in a lot of trouble.
Oh, the blackberry whiskey was quite good. I don't know if I'd do a whole shot, but like half of that at a time is really good. Very enjoyable. So my Dr. Pepper and Fireball was a bit aggressive.
Are you pretty shit-faced?
I probably could drive, but I wouldn't.
Gotcha.